Hello, everyone. Welcome to Save News TV. I'm your host, AZ Hubbard, and thank you so much for inviting me into your home this morning or this afternoon or whenever you watch this, whether it's live or on the replay. So, today, everybody, we're going to be talking about Pastor Brian Carn, and some people call him Prophet Brian Carn. And we are talking about his pleading guilty to tax crimes. And what I want to start off, I want to preface this entire video with the fact that we are talking about the tax information. I know there's some other things out there about Pastor Brian Carn. We will not be addressing that today. And so just the tax things. Also, Brian Carn went on Larry Reid live show last night, and he took accountability for the situation and did not try to skirt responsibility. And before I really go into this, because we're going to go into the DOJ press release, and we're also going to listen to a little bit of Larry Reid live. Of course, I'm going to make commentary in between because, people, content creators work hard for what they do, and so we want to respect his copyright and respect the work that he did because he was able to get him on to make a statement that nobody else was able to. So we have to give Larry Reid his props for that. So anyway, what we're going to do, like I said, also before over here at Save News TV, we pretty much stay neutral. We stay in the middle of the road when we're reporting on things. Sometimes I might swing one way or the other, and we might swing one way or the other. But I want to say a few things before I really go into this. Number one, everybody that file taxes, whether you are an individual or if you are a business, once the taxes are filed, I don't care if you do it yourself or you have a third party to do it. At the end of the day, you are responsible for what is on your tax filings. They even, if you look, because I know many of you are filing your taxes now. So I'm going to tell you now, if you look at the bottom of below your signature, it clearly, I think it's either below your signature or right above it, but it's in the area where you sign your tax return. It clearly states that irrespective of who prepared your taxes, at the end of the day, you are liable for anything that's on your taxes. So I want to preface that with that. That's not taking a side with Brian Carn. It's not going for against him. These are just the facts. So keep that in mind. And as a business owner, generally we pay taxes. We don't get to no refunds, but I wanted to say that, and I want you all, even if you file your taxes electronically, it's on that form. It'll still state that you are responsible at the end of the day. Some of these tax services provide legal assistance to assist you if you run into trouble with the IRS. But at the end of the day, those are your taxes. You sign it and you are the one responsible. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into what Brian Carn was charged with, what he pled guilty to, and then we'll listen to, with commentary, a little of Larry Reid's live show to give more explanation and depth into this particular interview, because of course he can only say so much because this is a legal action, even though it is settled, because he's already pled guilty. So without further ado, let's pull up the document. Okay, so now we are on the Department of Justice, the DOJ website, and this is the press release. I know you might see some articles that are talking about this particular situation, but what we're going to do is we're going to go strictly with the DOJ reporting on this matter. Okay, so it states Jacksonville minister pleads guilty to tax crime. Defendant obstructed the IRS efforts to collect more than $600,000 in taxes. A Jacksonville minister pleaded guilty today to obstructing the IRS efforts to collect his tax debts. According to court documents and statements made in court, Brian Carn Jr. operated a ministry under various names, including Healing House Ministries Incorporated, Brian Carn Ministries Incorporated, and Kingdom Culture City Churches. In 2016, Brian filed his tax returns for 2015 that properly reported that he earned more than $1.4 million in income and owed more than $600,000 in taxes. He did not, however, pay those taxes to the IRS and instead came up with a scheme to deceive the IRS. In a few months later, when the IRS attempted to collect his unpaid taxes, including by placing liens on his properties and attempting to levy his bank accounts, Carn amended his 2015 tax return and falsely removed $1.3 million in income that he had previously reported. To accomplish this, Carn hired a new accountant and provided him with a fictitious, backdated employment agreement that provided for an annual salary of $120,000 and an annual parsonage allowance of $24,000. I'm going to pause right here. So, like, we were discussing before, irrespective of who the accountant was, you are responsible at the end of the day. You signed it, whether, they're saying that he, supplied fraudulent information. But whether you do or you don't, or, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your taxes and what's reported on it. Carn represented third parties on credit applications, financial account openings, and lease applications, and otherwise knew that the income he actually earned was far exceeded the purported salary in the employment agreement provided to a new accountant. In the following years, operating under the premise of the fictitious employment agreement, Carn filed a series of other tax returns that drastically underreported his true income. But in 2020, he stopped filing tax returns, despite continuing to earn income by using ministry funds to pay for personal expenses. Now, I want to read you all to focus in on that particular statement, because as we listen into Brian Carn's interview with Larry Reid Live, that he states something different. But according to the DOJ, he stopped filing taxes in 2020. So I don't know what's real or what's not real. That's between him and the IRS. Okay. So the DOJ continued to say, finally, when the IRS was trying to collect the outstanding taxes, Carn made a number of false representations and material omissions to the IRS to conceal his assets and income. Carn's obstruction caused the loss to the United States between $550,000 and $1.5 million. Carn faces a maximum penalty of 3 years in prison. Assistant Attorney General A. Dyson Duvay of the Justice Department's Criminal Division made the announcement. The IRS criminal investigation is investigating the case. Assistant Deputy Chief David Zeisterson and trial attorney Max Wilner Garech of the Criminal Division Tax Section are prosecuting the case with the assistance of the U.S. Attorney Office in the Middle District of Florida. So that is what the DOJ is reporting. I know there are news organizations that are reporting it one way, one spin this way, but this is what is in the court filings and what the DOJ is reporting. Now, to go back on he stopped filing taxes in 2020. This was as of the court date. So Brian Carn might have gone back and filed, new taxes or whatever. So we don't know. We just know what we read here. So now we're going to listen to the interview that he had with Larry Reid, and we're going to make commentary. I want you to make sure that you all like, share, and subscribe, and that you put your comments and let us know how you feel about this. What are your thoughts? What are your experiences with the IRS when it comes to tax matters? So let's get into the Larry Reid conversation. Okay, so again, this is Larry Reid Live. Let's play.
They didn't hear you. How are you tonight?
I'm saved. How you doing?
I was checking to see if you would do like you do when we just regular on the phone. That's always what he say, y'all. The first thing he say, I'm saved.
Amen.
All right. So let me ask you this. This is my question, because I just read through the article. And in my opinion, but I don't know if it's true, and I didn't ask you this because I didn't read it. I told you I didn't want to talk to you until I read it. It sounds like accounting error.
Oh, that's all it is. It's an accounting error, but it's an accounting error that I have to take responsibility.
Okay, so Larry Reid is, setting this interview up and saying like it sounds like accounting error. Again, whether it's accounting error, not accounting error, it is at the end of the day, the IRS, when you file those tax forms, you and you alone are responsible. Now, you do have other options to, go after the accounting firm or whatever independently. But for the IRS, you are responsible. Okay, so let's get it.
Because it's my taxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, as much as you may want to responsibility for, because it's my taxes.
Okay, so I have to applaud Pastor Brian Carn here, because he realizes that irrespective of who prepared the taxes, it's your responsibility. And he's completely and totally right. And one thing I'm very happy, just covering some of the stories that we cover, a lot of times these pastors, ministers, prophets, whatever, 5-0 ministry, however you want to call it, they want to skirt responsibility and blame someone else. But this is refreshing to see that he is taking 100% accountability on this.
Say, when you come into money as a young man, right? Mm-hmm. Suddenly we are thrust into a world of increase that we've never had before. Mm-hmm. And when you come into that space, we are never, first of all.
Now, this is where Brian Carn is, he could have kept this to himself, coming into money suddenly, you can go broke or whatever. But at the end of the day, you are responsible for your taxes. One thing, a very well-known saying is ignorance of the law is not an excuse to not be held accountable or something like that. Ignorance of the law, I forget the exact saying, but in essence, ignorance of the law is not a defense. Okay. So even though, you don't know, or you say you don't know, you didn't understand, it is not a defense. But again, he did take full accountability. The explanation he's given here, I guess this is probably because of his personal relationship and for the people that are listening, that follow him or whatever. But as we over here Saveites, we're about them facts. Okay, so let's get it.
Larry, let me say this to you. I have never worked a job, right? So I've never worked at a Walmart. I've never worked at a Winn-Dixie. I've never worked at a Foot Locker. I don't know if y'all had Pick and Save, Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
I've never worked at a job, right? So because I've never worked at a job, I've never got income tax at the end, and to go to the income tax people and file your taxes. I never went through that, right? Mm-hmm. And so
okay. That sounds good, all good and well, but he knew enough to file the taxes the first time with the $1.5 million. So that's sort of like throw this out the window, what he's talking about now. As a matter of fact, like I stated earlier, he could have kept that. And it would have been better for him just to, leave that part out. In my personal opinion, but he said what he said, and we're going to listen to it, and I'm going to commentate on it.
When you're thrust into a world of money and finance and all of that stuff, us as black people, we do file taxes, but we don't file taxes to pay money. We file taxes to get money back.
Oh, I know.
Right.
It's a whole nother world. And right. If the IRS were looking at me when I was 19, 20, 22, 23, making money, from doing gigs, I would have been in a mess because I didn't know what to do.
So I came into that money. And the reason I'm saying that is because this is 11 years ago.
So, okay, ho.
And see, now this is the thing. When evidently, he's saying this is 11 years ago. He the IRS doesn't go past 10 years. So this lets me know that this investigation had been going on for a while, and he's been aware of this for a while. And honestly, the IRS will pile you up with letters. And I know many of you who might owe on taxes, even though you don't want to pay it, you can work out a payment plan. Really and truthfully, even though Brian Carn is taking responsibility, he could have avoided all of this and just worked out a payment plan with the IRS. It would have been painful, yes, I'm sure, at $600,000. But now, it's being brought to the light. And like I said, he's taking responsibility for it. And he also, later in the interview, but I won't tell you what you have to watch, but with me. But let's see.
Everybody, hold. Okay, let me give him about 2 minutes, Prophet Pastor.
Okay.
This is how. Why is that not in this article?
Well, it said on there. It said from 2015.
Not the article I just read, unless I missed it.
You might have missed it.
Oh, okay. See, I'm gonna let you finish, but this makes sense to me. I just don't need you to be in prison no 3 years.
Yeah. Well, I won't be. I know how to handle that stuff in the spirit.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
Now, and generally, probably what will happen, Brian Carn probably won't go to prison, or he shouldn't, because first of all, he probably doesn't have a criminal record. The maximum sentence is 3 years according to the DOJ's website. And, he is a prominent person. And, when you have money, I don't care what color you are. If you have money, you can get out of some things that your average person can't. Now, sometimes color do play into it, but generally money talks. And if he, make a deal with the DOJ and you pay it like he should have done years ago, because now you're talking about compounded interest, penalties, and fees on top of this, along with the public embarrassment and humiliation that he's receiving now. This is a very expensive lesson for Brian Carn.
But so this is 2015. Watch this. This is Brian Carn, Benny Hinn. This is Brian Carn, TBN, Daystar, Benny Hinn. This is 2014, 15. This is me doing these big conferences, thousands of people showing up. I'm not pastoring yet. I haven't even started pastoring. I didn't start pastoring to 2016. And I want to say this real quick. I kind of feel a little bad. I was going to address this. I spoke to the leaders of my church to kind of let them know what was going on. I didn't communicate it to all of the members of the church, because if it didn't go public, I didn't want to have to address it. So I if they're listening, I don't want them to feel like I'm talking to them.
And, he's stating that he did not, let the members of the church know. Now, one thing, and he's apologizing here for that, which makes total perfect sense. But also, number one, you don't know when it's going to be released, not trying to take up for him. And number two, but he said he let his leadership know. Number three, if he had expressed this out in the open congregation, then this information might have leaked. And because, everybody got a cell phone, and they probably would have got it wrong. Whether, on the side of Brian Carn or not on the side of Brian Carn. So it's unfortunate that he did not let his congregation know, but he apologized. However, he did let his leadership know, because, when you get out in front, we see it all the time. Somebody's always recording, and, things could get misconstrued as to what is being said. So as unfortunate as it is that he did not notify his congregation first, it probably is the best that he did not.
the world before I'm talking to them, because it was my intention that I would have went ahead and addressed it on Sunday. But with the permission of my pastor, and you know this about me, whether you won't believe it or not, with the permission of my pastor, I asked my pastor, and he gave me his permission to go ahead and address it. So anyway, I came into that money, did all of those things. And again, it was 2015, and I just did not handle my business properly.
I didn't either.
You put people.
And that is a fact, and a lot of people don't handle their business properly, whether it's their personal business or their business. And unfortunately, the school system does not teach finance. It does not teach how to, taxes and things of that nature that's useful in the world. That's why I have an issue with public school system, because they're teaching so much stuff that is not useful, trying to be, give morality. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Say, AZ, don't go down that rabbit hole. But I do encourage people to homeschool their children. And when they homeschool them, make sure that finance, banking, accounting, law, whatever is included in that. And when you homeschool, you can take them to different workshops and different things of that nature so they can learn about finances. But let's continue.
People in place to handle certain things, and at the end of the day, it's no one else's responsibility. It's my responsibility.
Yeah, it's on you.
And so when I was confronted with it, I took responsibility for it. There were some very harsh words in that article. Lying, faking. I mean, that wasn't really my intention. But at the end of the day, I do believe that.
I don't like that because.
Okay, so that was what we were talking about with the article being, depending on what article you pull, it's going to have a different slant. That's just the media. It is what it is. Okay, I don't go down that path.
They're doing because you're black. Look at our president. They don't. Y'all. I won't never say he lied.
Okay. Our thing over here is we don't cry victim because of our race. Yes, there's racism, and yes, there's things that happen to us because of our color. But if you don't pay your taxes and you try to invade them, they're going to get you regardless of your race. So I want to not co-sign on to this.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna put this in the thing because a black man that's generated millions of dollars. I know what this is now, and I know many of you in the chat. They 3,000 something of you watching. You go to work, they take taxes out, you file, and you get money back. You look forward to the first of the year all the time. I get that. I've done that. Carn said he hasn't, but I have that experience. And he named the stores I used to manage too. I used to manage 3 hotels and do audits for them. So although I thought I was financially savvy, I went to sleep one day. I woke up and there were $2 million sitting in my account. I didn't know what to do with it. So I just handed it out there, brother. Not all of it. First, I put it back into what we were doing. But then the rest of it I sent out because I was raised to sort of think having money and Jesus don't go together. It's like he married.
Well, I'm going to be hopefully I could cut this part out. This is supposed to be an interview with Brian Carn to find out about what, happened. Everybody have a different interview style, but okay. I don't need all this other information from Larry Reid. That's his personal business. I'm interested, and we're interested in what transpired according to Brian Carn's perspective.
To the poor, and he loves us more than he do the rich, and the rich ain't right. All of that was in my mind.
Yeah.
So I didn't do it right either, and I did not know. Now I know if I'm making money anyway, I need to pull 20 and 30%, put it to the side just in case when they get to the end of the year, my accountant say I need $20,000-$30,000 to pay on something. So I didn't know that. So this is an accounting error when you were younger, your ministry was younger.
Yeah, I was not past.
And that's what I appreciate. All of this is that irrespective of how Larry might be trying to, help, try to, get him to weasel out and blame the accountant, Brian Carn is coming back and saying, yeah, that might be true, but at the end of the day, it's my responsibility. And for that, I appreciate his stance and his position, because it is what it is. Sometimes, now I don't know what it is. Y'all help me understand. Get in the comments, tell me. It's like people are living in an alternative reality. They don't want to take responsibility for anything. And, there's an excuse for actions, and there's nothing wrong with telling why something happened, but at the end of the day, you got to take accountability and responsibility. And again, I applaud Brian Carn for doing that.
Yet it's 11 years ago, but at the end of the day, whatever you don't deal with, it's going to catch up with you, and you got to take responsibility. And so 2026 for me, I've communicated is a year of the divide. And just over the last 6 months, I believe God has had me to come face to face with things about me that I needed to fix. And I'm open, I'm ready, I'm willing to address those things. And so this is about having ministry integrity.
Okay, so, and this is what we were talking about earlier. Not only did the article say that, the Department of Justice said that, but also remember, this is the press release according to the time frame of their investigation. Okay, so now there very well could have been other taxes filed after the investigation began, but according to the documents from the Department of Justice, that's why I purposely did not read any other articles. I wanted to stick strictly with the Department of Justice and what they're reporting, because as we discussed earlier, some of these news organizations, all of them really, they're going to have a slant one way or the other sometimes. So we try to stay neutral in the center.
Financial integrity. The article said that I hadn't filed my tax return since 2020. Not true.
Right, but see, he said they all have been filed, but he did not say when they were filed or whether they were filed timely. So we're gonna, just read the article.
Anybody can Google that and find it out.
That's right. They've been filed 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. All have been filed, but
they told that lie on me online too.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say when I was confronted with it, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna take responsibility. I'm guilty. I'm sorry." And that's, this thing is in the hands of the Lord.
Yeah.
I trust that He'll
Carn,
whatever.
sorry to cut through, but what you think of this? Somebody says the people that was around you they know that you have to pay taxes. Those people are not true people to you. They should have known that you have to pay your taxes. What do you want to say to that?
Well, my response to that is, they didn't have access to the level of money that I was seeing. So going there, can't tell been there how to get there.
And say that again.
Going there, can't tell been there.
And I have to agree with that. A lot of times we want to, just because we love and enjoy a pastor, we want to blame other people. It's not other people's responsibilities to have told Brian Carn he had to pay taxes. It was not. And again, I applaud him for taking the responsibility and not trying to use any of these excuses as a shield for what happened, because it is what it is. If we started being honest, especially the body of Christ, and take responsibility for things, we could move on past situations much faster than trying to hide things. But okay, let's get back into this.
How to get there.
Okay.
And you can't go and flow in what you don't know. Again, you think about all of the great basketball players and football players, black men who come into millions of dollars, and you see them in a couple of years, they're broke. Mm-hmm. And it's not because they didn't have people around them who loved them. It's not because they didn't have people around them who cared about them. It's just that those around them didn't absolutely know all the details, the ins, the outs. And to be honest with you, Larry, we don't really tell. Well, I don't. I don't really tell the people who's around me the money that's being made.
Right.
You don't do that. So they wouldn't know. So but again, I was younger, like a responsibility.
Yes, that's awesome. Absolutely. Take responsibility. I hope that more pastors and ministries take this as a lesson and use this as a template of taking responsibility for things that they have done in the past. Hey, it's wrong. I mean, I did it. I know I could come up with every excuse, but at the end of the day, it was my fault. Then that way we wouldn't have situations where Drewski is in. Check out the video below in our playlist. Is impersonating these type of pastors and their craziness. Just, take responsibility.
It was 11 years ago. And I made a bad decision, didn't handle my business. And I have to take responsibility. I have to own that. I'm glad I'm coming face to face with it. Mm-hmm. And you go ahead and deal with it. And I wanted to come on here with you and go ahead and address it.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And so that people can know my advice to everybody. Handle your business.
Exactly. Look, Fred Jenkins says this type of accountability and transparency is what's needed more now than ever. Now, somebody.
Okay, so I think that they're going into something else now. So let's get into.
I'm gonna read that to my. Well, what about the other this that don't this is.
Okay, he's going into other parts, and we said we're going to stick straight to the facts. So everybody, tell me, what do you think regarding Brian Carn and his situation as far as pleading guilty to the DOJ case of tax situation? But like I said, I think that more pastors should take the responsibility and come out, and if they've done something, just say you did it. And the only issue that I have with Brian Carn in this situation is that he waited until the DOJ brought it forward, as far as issuing a press release. I don't know when he started talking to his leadership regarding the situation, but I understand him waiting to bring it public and to the congregation. Now, there is a video clip from the 4th of January where he says that at his service to his congregation, there was a situation, January 4th. I think it was January 4th. I'll put it in here, that there's a situation that might be brought public. And so let's look at that and see what he says with that. So he did sort of give the church a heads up, but he did not tell them exactly what the situation was. Due to the fact of his other things that's going on, people probably assumed it had to do with that versus during the tax situation. So let's check this out. Hey, everybody, this is coming from Joy 105. We want to give a shout out to them. So let's get it.
Sometimes I've had to mount this pulpit, stand before you under pressure. Not this week, but next week I have to face something. Maybe you'll find out about it. Maybe you want me and God been. I've been trying to bother with him. I don't look like it's working. But
So, he's like, maybe you will, maybe you won't find out about it. But like I said, most people were assuming it had to do with his personal, even though this is his personal life, but his relationship aspect of his personal life, not his financial portion of his personal life. Okay, so what happened is he went on to talk about, more